Have you ever wondered what the differences are between playing Sims 4 on console and Sims 4 on PC? Today I've got you covered. Hey humans, how's it going? It's Shani Zade here. Today we're going to be diving into a direct comparison between Sims 4 on console and Sims 4 on PC. I do get quite insightful and I do get quite technical in a bunch of these points that are going to be covered in this video, so if you want to jump through to the quick synopsis and quick breakdown, just jump forward to this time here and I will see you there. Other than that, let's get into the video. These are my PC specs. They're not the greatest in the world. A bunch of PCs will perform better with the Sims 4. I have filmed all of this content on an Xbox Series S, but I do also have prior experience playing Sims 4 on a PlayStation 4, an Xbox One, and an Xbox One X. Gameplay portion of this video was also filmed pre the menu refresh that released a couple of weeks ago, but apart from the visuals from the landing screen, nothing else has changed in terms of actual gameplay. So let's start off with some obvious differences. Now, obviously, if you're playing on console, you are going to have a screen where you need to press any button to continue, press A, press X, whatever the case is, to sign into the profile that you play on that console to load into the main menu, whereas whether you're launching on Steam or on Origin, it'll take you straight through to the main menu without needing to sign into an additional profile. Once we dive into the main screen, post refresh of the menus, you've got your resume, you've got your new game, scenarios, gallery, blah, blah, blah. You'll notice that, of course, on the PC side, there's a bunch of extra details at the bottom. You see your version number, you see a bunch of links to some social media, as well as to the forums. And we don't have the same options on console, but you'll also see the menu items are actually a little bit different as well. Obviously, on the console side of life as well, under the main menu where you've got your new game, load game, whatever the case is, there's also an option to change profile, which will just switch the profile to whoever's playing on the Xbox, the PlayStation at that time. PC doesn't have that. Then diving into the options menu on console and PC, there are some obvious differences here. Now, the elephant in the room, console doesn't have access to mods or custom content. We already know this. I've done extensive coverage on this on the channel as to why not, what gurus have said about it. Everything about that is available in the description or up in the cards right now. But you will notice there's a distinct lack in the other options for being able to turn on script mods, being able to enable custom content on the console side of life. But also additionally, there's an entire accessibility feature that PC has that console doesn't have that affects the UI. And you'll see that that change is going to be carried out throughout the entirety of this video in terms of how big or small you want to make your field of view for your gameplay. Something else worth mentioning is the fact that a PC version of The Sims also carries support for the lighting sync, which allows your RGB enabled keyboards, mouse, headset, speakers, whatever the case may be, to also have the colors match the mood of your sim, or to have the green spiral whenever you're just in a normal loading screen or whatever to match a plumb blob. So that's something the console does not have. Even if you have an RGB mouse or keyboard plugged into the console, there is no support for that on console. Now, very much like mods and custom content that aren't available on console, something else that isn't available on console that was available or is available to PC players, although they haven't done it in a hot minute, so doesn't really count going forward. Challenge events, the seasonal events that happened with patches that involve Jasmine Holiday. A bunch of the PC players will remember what I'm talking about. There was the Bunny Egg Hunt, the Plant Sim Challenge, the Positivity Challenge, the Day of the Dead, a whole bunch of those in-game events that unlocked additional content. Those were never available on console to be able to play with the community and have that challenge complete over the X amount of days. However, all of the unlocks for those are available either by gameplay unlocks entitlements or through debug, depending on what specific items you're looking for. What is nice to see, however, when some sessions rolled around, that was also available on console, and I have done a video about that. I played my experience for Sims 4 console sim sessions, which was really nice as a console player to be involved, especially knowing that we weren't involved with the challenge aspect. But now let's get into the nitty-gritty outside of the specifics to menus and content that is physically just not available on console versus PC. Loading times. Now, like I said, I'm not running the most monstrous of PCs, so the loading times are pretty similar given my PC versus current gen Xbox standard. I did even notice that sometimes my console loaded quicker than my PC. If I was running a 1080, a 3090, all of the other fancy techie tech words here, if I was running a more powerful PC, I'm sure those loading times would be quicker. I'm sure the ability to load in will be much faster than on my Xbox Series S, but it is worth noting that the older consoles, death by loading screen. The exact same thing happens if you're running on an older gen PC, if you're running on a laptop, not necessarily the most up-to-date PC or laptop or whatever the case is. That's always going to be down to whatever hardware you're running. It is going to affect your gameplay. PC players are also able to back up their saves by going into their file management, whereas unfortunately Xbox, our game saves to the cloud, so we can't even access them. PlayStation you can, but it's super complicated. So you'll notice just off the break there is a save and save as option, whereas on Sims 4 console there's only one way to save, and you have to select the save each time. You can't just save and it has little saving and then done and dusted. You have to go in, choose your save, choose to overwrite it, etc, etc. A big thing that stood out for me as a difference between PC and console is the field of view, which we've already discussed is available in accessibility, which is an option not available to console, but I could physically feel the difference. Playing on the exact same size monitors between Xbox and PC, it's such a difference having access to a smaller UI with more space for your gameplay. Definitely a difference that I picked up was the ability to have that bigger or smaller UI on PC versus a very static, very set experience on console. I know you can still set your margins, but that's essentially shrinking or enlarging the actual gameplay screen as a whole and not the actual user interface. But that is something I picked up, as well as the color difference. I felt on PC the colors are exceptionally brighter and richer in comparison to my console. Now, I am playing on a Series S. I'm not playing on a Series X, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I do have a HD 60S Plus Elgato, so it's not like I'm running on outdated software there. And also, they are the exact same identical monitors, so it's got nothing to do with monitor calibration. Everything is the same. I bought them at the same time. All of the other things and stuff. I just felt with PC, the gameplay color is so much richer. Never mind just of the menus, but in the actual gameplay as well. The colors seem that much darker and richer. Another teeny tiny difference that is not going to make any difference actually in the greater scheme of gameplay is the fact that when you're inputting cheats on PC versus when you're inputting cheats on console, when you have Control-Shift-C or top buttons, bottom triggers on your controller to bring up the cheats console, it pauses the game in the background. However, on PC, your game still runs in the background unless you physically pause the gameplay yourself. Sims 4 on PC released in 2014, Sims 4 console released in 2017, mouse and keyboard support only got released for console in 2019. There have been a lot of improvements in terms of content gets released on the same day, whether it be for PC or for console. Gallery is also available on console now as well, whereas previously in 2017 was not the case with console release. Something that console does that I have yet to see happen on PC is every now and again, this happens on stream a lot and chat usually laughs at me, is it will generate, hey, we're adjusting your graphic settings so you can get back to playing The Sims. That essentially reduces the look and feel of your console gameplay, which ultimately, if it's done that 6 or 7 times during the course of your gameplay experience on console, you will need to reload the game because some of the graphics and some of the wallpaper and the detailing gets really, really, really bad. But that's obviously because it's trying to make sure that your game doesn't crash. So that's the only real experience in terms of differences that I felt in terms of gameplay outside of not having mods and custom content, is the fact that there is graphics adjustments that do happen on the fly when a lot has been loaded in. I found if you're playing for a long amount of time, if you're loading into a bunch of different households, if you're loading into a different lot that has a lot of Sims on it, if you're loading into a lot that has a lot of data, I have found that kicks up that screen a lot more than if you're just playing in one household, you're not leaving the lot and you never do anything ever except for the teeny tiny world you've created for your Sims, then that doesn't pop up as much. But in terms of gameplay, that is like the teeniest, tiniest of differences. Hi, welcome to the quick summary of everything that you've just watched, or if you've just jumped here from the intro, hi, how's it going? So, quick synopsis for those of you who are paying attention and pop quiz. The games are essentially identical in terms of actual gameplay, apart from the following. PC has a bunch of extra options within the main menu, which can be found in terms of other, has access to mods and custom content as well as script mods. That's not on console. PC also has additional screens for achievements and accessibility, which can also affect your UI, which then also in turn affects what the game looks like on the monitors. Console feels a lot closed in because the field of view is a lot reduced, whereas on PC, you can actually have a sliding bar. You can make it look the same as console. You could make it zoomed out very much, but there is a specific recommended area to be in. Additionally, on PC, if you've got RGB enabled peripherals, there is a lighting sync option, which allows your keyboard, mouse, headset, speakers, whatever is RGB enabled that can sync, will be either green revolving plumb blob or the colors of your Sims current moodlet, which is obviously not available on console. Even if you have RGB enabled peripherals plugged into your console, that support is not there. There are teeny tiny little bit of the differences in terms of the menus and saving mechanics within the console game versus the PC game. PC obviously having the ability to save as, and also additionally outside of the game, back up your saves. Regardless of whether you're on Steam or Origin, you can back up your saves. The live challenges, live events that used to take place on PC in terms of Plant Sim Challenge, the Easter egg hunt, Day of the Dead, not to be confused with the scenarios. Scenarios are available on all platforms, but in terms of those live challenges, the positivity challenge with Millie Bobby Brown, those were never available on console. Those items, however, from those various events on PC are still available through gameplay unlocks entitlements or through debug show hidden objects, which is available on console as well. We just never had the option to play those events with the community as that rolled out. However, Sim Sessions was available on all platforms. Console release and PC release eventually aligned, and we get same content on the same day, including Delivery Express and everything else. Colors do feel more rich and intense on PC than they do on console. Obviously, if you're playing on console with a controller, your gameplay controls are going to be a little bit different because the entire keyboard is summed up into the various buttons available on the controller. And you do have the little bit of like a cheat bar, hotkeys, legend that is available to be able to show you your controls, which can be hidden through settings. Inputting cheats on console pauses the gameplay in the background. However, you can put cheats into the PC gameplay without the game pausing in the background, and you physically actually have to pause gameplay. A too long didn't read version of the loading times, but I did go into vast detail earlier on in the video. Depending on the hardware you're working with, either your PC is supercomputer vibes and it's going to load in faster than a console. However, if you're playing on an older version console, if you're playing on an older generation MacBook, if you're playing on an older generation PC that hasn't been kept up to date in terms of hardware, your PC is also going to run slower. So death by loading screen if you're not running either the latest gen console or the most up-to-date PC with the most fancy specs. But that comes down to hardware, and honestly, it comes down to user experience. Console and PC gameplay, apart from mods and custom content, is exactly the same. There is no special preferences in terms of Sims official released content for either console or PC. They are the exact same games at the grassroots level. It's all of the additional extras that PC has. Bunch of bells and whistles, including mods and custom content, and the ability to change additional graphic settings, UI, accessibility, RGB support over and above everything else. But at the bare bones level, completely base game and all of the DLCs, that is the same across the board. Whether you're playing on a console, whether you're playing on a PC, as long as you're enjoying the game at the end of the day. But personally, my recommendation, if you're playing on console, is to make sure that you're playing with a mouse and keyboard plugged in, because then it is even as closer to the PC experience as possible without the support for mods or custom content, naturally. But that is going to be the video. I hope you found it insightful. Did you learn something? If there's anything I haven't covered in this video, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to either answer in the comments or make a separate video about it. If you did enjoy the video and you did find it insightful, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new around here. Remember that we all human differently, and I'll see you humans again soon. Dag dag.